19 children and 2 teachers were shot dead in an elementary school in Texas in the city of Uvalde on Tuesday. The attack on the Robb Elementary School was carried out by an 18-year-old who attended Uvalde High School. Families have begun sharing the names of some of the victims. They include 9-year-old Uzziah Garcia, 10-year-old Amory Jo Garza, 10-year-old Jose Flores, 10-year-old Xavier Lopez, 10-year-old Anabel Guadalupe Rodriguez, and 2 4th-grade teachers, Ava Morelos and Irma Garcia. Robb Elementary School is a school with about 600 students in just 3 grades, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. The school's about 90% Latinx. Thursday was scheduled to be the last day of class for the year. The school district superintendent, Hal Harrell, spoke Tuesday.
My heart was broken today. We're a small community, and we'll need your prayers to get us through this.
The gunman has been identified as Salvador Ramos. He reportedly bought at least one of his guns on his 18th birthday a few days ago. He was shot dead in the school. Earlier in the day, he shot and critically wounded his grandmother. Tuesday's attack was the deadliest school shooting since the massacre at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut, when a 20-year-old gunman shot dead 26 people, including 20 children between the ages of 6 and 7 in 2012. On Tuesday night, President Biden addressed the nation.
As a nation, we have to ask, when in God's name are we going to stand up to the gun lobby? When in God's name we do what we all know in our gut needs to be done?
The shooting in Uvalde came just 10 days after an 18-year-old self-described white supremacist attacked a grocery store in the heart of Buffalo's African-American community. He shot dead 10 people, all of whom were black. On Tuesday, a funeral was held for 65-year-old Celestine Chaney. Today, the Senate will hold a confirmation hearing for Stephen Dettelbach to head the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. The agency has been without a permanent leader for 7 years. In the past, Dettelbach has supported a federal assault weapons ban and universal background checks. Vigils were held in Uvalde, Texas, Wednesday, a day after an 18-year-old gunman shot and killed 19 students and 2 teachers at the Robb Elementary School. It was the deadliest school shooting in the United States in over a decade. All the victims were in the same 4th-grade class. The White House says President Biden will visit Uvalde in the coming days. Meanwhile, chilling details have emerged about the events leading up to the massacre. Officials say the gunman lawfully purchased 2 semi-automatic assault rifles and up to 375 rounds of ammunition just last week after his 18th birthday. On Tuesday morning, he texted a teenage girl he'd befriended online in Germany, writing, "I'm going to shoot my grandmother." Then he wrote, "I just shot my grandma in her head," followed immediately by the message, "I'ma go shoot up an elementary school." Police say the gunman shot his way past an armed school security officer, then barricaded himself inside the school for over an hour, wounding 2 police officers before he was shot dead by a Border Patrol agent. Some parents report they tried to storm the school as they waited for police to respond, but were pushed back. The gunman was reportedly in that school between 40 minutes and an hour. On Wednesday, Texas gubernatorial candidate and former Democratic Congressmember Beto O'Rourke interrupted a press conference held by Texas Governor Greg Abbott in Uvalde. Video of the incident shows Beto approaching the stage and telling Abbott, "This is totally predictable when you choose not to do anything." Beto O'Rourke was shouted down by top Texas Republicans and escorted from the room by police. We'll play excerpts of that confrontation after headlines. Governor Abbott has declined to say whether he still plans to attend the National Rifle Association's 2022 annual meeting, which is set to open in Houston on Friday. Texas Republican Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and Republican Senator Ted Cruz still plan to attend, as does former President Donald Trump. He'll be the headliner on Friday night. World leaders continue to react in horror to the latest mass shooting in the United States. At the Vatican, Pope Francis said Wednesday he's heartbroken by the massacre in Texas.
It is time to say enough to the indiscriminate trafficking of weapons. Let us all make a commitment. Let us all make a commitment so that tragedies like this cannot happen again.
Many people here in the UK feel a special bond with the US, and it's painful to see American children killed like this. But a lot of people I've spoken to here also say they're mystified, they're confused, because here and in other countries where there's been a massacre, the government brings in tougher gun control laws, and they cannot comprehend why that doesn't happen in the US.
16 young children and their teacher have been shot dead by a gunman at a primary school near Stirling.
In 1996, the United Kingdom was horrified by the murder of 5- and 6-year-old children by a lone shooter.
I just can't believe something like this is happening.
It was the deadliest mass shooting in British history. And after a grassroots campaign, the government here banned the private ownership of all handguns.
Good evening. All Australians tonight share the horror of the Port Arthur massacre.
In Australia, also in 1996, a lone gunman murdered 35 people. In response, the then Conservative Australian government banned nearly all semi-automatic rifles and shotguns and launched a program to buy back more than 600,000 weapons from those who already owned them.
The greatest civil right you have is to stay alive. Staying alive and being free from random attack is a far more precious civil right than owning a gun.
These are our most popular firearms.
In Australia in 2015, we found the nation's tough gun control laws widely popular, even with this gun shop owner.
I mean, if you were in America, you'd probably sell a lot more guns and make a lot more money.
Yeah, I suppose sometimes it's not all about the money.
From Columbine to Sandy Hook and Parkland. School shootings have broken the hearts of Americans, but there's been no major change to gun ownership laws in the US.
We've got a gun lobby and a corporate gun lobby that has its tentacles so deeply into our political process.
Dr. Jonathan Metzl is a sociologist who told us he's witnessed the gun lobby pressure US politicians into withholding support for tougher laws.
The lesson of those other countries is really that people came together across the political divide.
But were those countries able to do that because they don't have powerful gun lobbies?
100% yes. Definitely yes.
One of the Parkland survivors called out Senator Marco Rubio for taking campaign money from the NRA.
Senator Rubio, can you tell me right now that you will not accept a single donation from the NRA in the future?
And even that didn't change anything.
That people buy into my agenda. And I do support the Second Amendment.
But in New Zealand, another mass shooting in 2019, 51 people killed in 2 mosques, once again prompted legal change outside the US. A ban on military-style semi-automatic weapons and assault rifles. This week, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern explained how they did it.
Now, we have legitimate needs for guns in our country for things like pest control and to protect our biodiversity, but you don't need a military-style semi-automatic weapon to do that. And so we got rid of them.
Australia saw gun deaths plummet after its new laws came into effect. And here in the UK, there are so few guns on the streets that even the police don't generally carry firearms. And ladies, while in the US this year there's been more than 1 mass shooting a day on average, in other wealthy countries, they are extremely rare.
In Texas, anger is mounting over the police response to Tuesday's massacre at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, which left 19 children and 2 teachers dead. On Thursday, Victor Escalon of the Texas Department of Public Safety said there were no officers outside the school to confront the 18-year-old gunman, contradicting earlier accounts that a school resource officer unsuccessfully engaged the teen. Escalon also had few answers about the initial police response and why officers took over an hour to directly confront the shooter, even though scores of police officers were on the scene.
Once we interview all those officers, what they were thinking, what they did, why they did it, the video, the residual interviews, we'll have a better idea. Could anybody have gone there sooner?
One mother was handcuffed by a U.S. Marshal as she pleaded with officers to do more to help the students trapped inside the school. Another officer was seen holding a taser to keep angry parents at bay. One law enforcement official told a local news channel some officers went into the school to rescue their own children. Meanwhile, the husband of a fourth-grade teacher killed in Tuesday's massacre died Thursday of a heart attack. 50-year-old Joe Garcia had just returned home from dropping off flowers at a memorial for his wife, Irma Garcia, when he collapsed. Garcia's cousin wrote, "I truly believe Joe died of a broken heart." Joe and Irma Garcia were high school sweethearts who'd been married for a quarter of a century. They leave behind 4 children. In Toronto, Canada, 5 schools were placed on lockdown Thursday as police shot and killed a man seen carrying a rifle near an elementary school. Toronto Police Chief James Raymer wouldn't name the person killed, but described him as a young man in his late teens or early 20s.
Due to the proximity to a school, I certainly understand the trauma and how traumatic this must have been for staff, students, and parents, given the recent events that have happened in the United States.
Students at scores of schools across the United States walked out of classrooms at the stroke of noon Thursday in a coordinated protest demanding passage of gun control laws. In Michigan, hundreds of Oxford high school students assembled on their school's football field, forming a giant U in solidarity with victims of the massacre in Uvalde. 4 Oxford students were killed in November by a 15-year-old gunman. Data from the Centers for Disease Control shows firearms have surpassed motor vehicle crashes as the leading cause of death for children in the United States. On Capitol Hill, Senate Republicans used the threat of a filibuster Thursday to block a bill to combat neo-Nazi and white supremacist violence. 47 Republicans voted against ending debate on the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act, which would create domestic terrorism offices within the FBI and the Departments of Justice and Homeland Security. This comes less than 2 weeks after a white supremacist gunman killed 10 African Americans at a grocery store in a predominantly black neighborhood of Buffalo, New York. On Thursday, the Senate adjourned for a 10-day recess after failing to take action on gun violence in the wake of the mass shootings in Buffalo and Uvalde, Texas. Democrats rallied outside the Capitol demanding gun control while rejecting Republican calls to arm teachers and school resource officers. This is California Senator Alex Padilla.
And no, putting more armed adults in schools is not the answer. If more guns was the answer, the United States of America would be the safest nation in the world. But it's not.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott has canceled plans to speak live at the annual convention of the National Rifle Association, which opens today in Houston, less than 300 miles from the site of Tuesday's massacre in Uvalde, but he will send a video. 2 other prominent Texas Republicans, Senator John Cornyn and Congressmember Dan Crenshaw, also canceled plans to attend the NRA gathering, as have 4 music stars, Larry Gatlin, Larry Stewart, and Don McLean. Texas Republican Senator Ted Cruz and Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick still plan to attend, as does today's featured speaker, former President Donald Trump. The NRA says the Secret Service will prohibit guns inside the Houston Convention Center during Trump's speech.